so disappointing. Anyway, here we go. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So recently I went to see the new Pirates of the Caribbean film, Dead Man Tells No Tale, or some people call it Salazar's Revenge. Wait, one sec. Salazar's Revenge, yeah.
I once knew a Spaniard named something in Spanish.
He's coming for you, Jack.
I was really excited. Apparently it was as good as the original ones, and as a kid I loved like The Curse of the Black Pearl, and the first few were very interesting. As it kind of went on, they became a bit repetitive and you were like, yeah, okay, this isn't as good as the originals, but whatever, you know, people do it. It's making money, making blockbusters, keep them rolling. And I really wanted to do like a positive review. I wanted to even be able to be like, oh, these were the good things and these were the bad things, but I was actually struggling to find things that I thought were really good about it, which is terrible. And I don't want to slate a film because it's not horrendous. Like I'd watch it again, but it's just not what I wanted. I feel like if I start off with a positive, that'll make everything else, like, it won't be quite as bad that way. So I think that's going to be the way I do it. Now, the CGI in this film is phenomenal. So Salazar is this dead man who is kind of trapped in the Bermuda Triangle, and the way that he is actually presented isn't just in his true form as Javier Bardem. He's this kind of underwater creature, so the way that his clothes move is as if he's underwater even when he's not. And yet again, very similar to Curse of the Black Pearl, you've got dead crew, missing bodies, kind of just like walking along the deck. Very terrifying, but you have seen it before, so... Not only just the Captain Salazar that is CGI'd, but obviously a lot of the boats and a lot of things around that at sea are CGI'd, and it's actually very effortless looking. You're not watching it and kind of thinking this is some kind of like sci-fi where the CGI is just out of this world, like Star Wars and things like that, where you just know it's not quite realistic. With this, you do actually get a sense that this could be real. You kind of start believing in pirates.
No. Pirates!
I think Javier Bardem is one of the best villain actors that we have got. Like, I especially love his work in No Country for Old Men, and as well like the new James Bond Spectre. And I truly believe that he portrayed this character perfectly. He was very threatening, and I actually at times was quite scared of him. I think he was the one thing that I thought kind of took it back to the original films where I was terrified of the villain. And I think that's the thing that's so disappointing about this film is actually the portrayal of Jack Sparrow. In the original films, he's kind of cocky and he's quirky and he's actually so witty, so intelligent, which although he is kind of the bad guy, he's our protagonist, but the bad guy is like the false hero kind of thing. He is still entertaining and we still are so surprised by what he's able to do. Check that camera then. Oh my god, I've done it too many times where I'm like filming and then I come back to it and I'm like, I wasn't filming it, okay. And it's true, like Johnny Depp is the epitome of this character. He, especially at the time when this was coming out, because there was so many other films that he was doing, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and he had such an iconic image for doing such amazing, like, out-of-the-box characters. But you come to this film and he's kind of lost all of that. He's no longer witty and intelligent. We even see a flashback as a younger self where he still has some wit, but that's just lost in the character of now. And I think, you know, you can show that a character's gone through a lot and maybe he's changed, maybe his life isn't quite the same anymore, but that's what we want to see. Like, still keep that in there, still bring that back. And in this film, he's just a drunk. He's kind of scared more so than he is in other films. Like when he hears that Salazar is out of the Bermuda Triangle and coming to find him, he is actually quite terrified of that. He isn't thinking like, oh, what can I do? He's actually quite scared. I think that's the thing, his wit that we see in the original films isn't so much part of his character. It just becomes coincidence, you know, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, and I think that was a real shame in losing that in his character. But I have to say, you know, like, Johnny Depp did play that character well. I just don't think the character was developed enough. It was as if in the original films his character was developed and this was like him coming to it. It was like it was a prequel for his character. It didn't quite fit the bill the same way. I also think by saying that you were like bringing back Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley and it's a reunion again, and that was a lie, because he's hardly in it. Well, like Keira Knightley has like a 2-second scene, and I don't think anyone was really expecting her to be back in it as much. But even on the poster, like Orlando Bloom is on the poster, yeah, he's in it for 5 minutes, and I feel like his storyline, the synopsis is basically his son is trying to free him from his curse that he is under suddenly. We have no idea that he's under this spell. It's just, you know, it's happened. We're bringing back Orlando Bloom. What could have happened? Where's he been? Oh, I know. He's been in a curse under the water. Okay. So his son is trying to save him, and in doing so, the only way he can think of doing it is by retrieving the trident of Poseidon. Through this journey, he tries to get help from Jack Sparrow, and they meet another girl along the way, and the story kind of goes on from there in their journey, and then obviously so many other things come into it, Salazar, and then you've got Bob Bassett coming back and all these kind of things. But I really feel like Orlando Bloom's storyline of Will Turner was just a bit pointless in the whole thing. It became so minor, but was such an iconic part of the beginning that you expected it to be much more important than it actually was. Yeah, it was kind of like too many storylines in one thing. It was just like shove them all in, like we've got this and this and this. Oh, we've had this idea, and it was just like, oh, let's just pop them all in. And by the end of it, you're like, whew, that was exhausting. Just like a little critical thing as well. Oh my god, I'm being so miserable about this film. Just the continuity is not good. There's just a lot of things like, it sounds really stupid and it's really small, but for a big blockbuster film, you kind of think they'd be able to just get some things right. Like just little bits where an item of clothing is torn and then in the next shot it's not torn, or they're like holding something and in the next shot it's differently held, or I don't know, it kind of grates on me a little bit when things like that are happening. So what I found really disappointing was actually that at the beginning I thought the acting was really good. You've got Karina Smythe, who is played by Kaya Scodelario. Yeah, I'm guessing it's along those lines. I actually thought at the beginning, I was like, oh, she's quite interesting. I've never watched Skins, but I know that everyone knows her as like, Effie has Skins, and everyone's like obsessed with her, so I was quite excited. And I was watching it and I was like, oh, she's actually quite good. This is nice. It's like a strong female character, because although we think we're following everyone else's storylines, hers becomes a lot more apparent throughout the film. As the film went on, her storyline became cheesier and cheesier, and actually kind of lost that strong independent character and became a lot more independent on others. And I thought that as the film went on, her acting got slightly less convincing, should I say. I also thought the same with Henry Turner, that by the end of it, it was kind of as if they were both kind of rushing through the characters and they were ready for their storylines to end, and not gonna lie, I was kind of ready for it too. Oh, this is bad, right? Okay, I don't like this. Hopefully next week's film's better. But this storyline is repetitive. In all the other films, Jack Sparrow has basically wronged someone and they want to get revenge, or he comes onto an island and people there don't like him already, and this happens a lot in the film. Now, it's fine, it's a good idea, but if I hadn't seen it before, it would have been more interesting. It just felt so repetitive. It's like what they actually had to accomplish was a very small, minor thing. It shouldn't have taken long, but it took so much longer because there's so many things stopping it along the journey. Which actually brings me to the point that I think the whole Poseidon and the Trident thing is a bit overdone. There's so many film adaptations of classical myths that I kind of felt like this one was just a bit meh, just kind of fell a bit flat. If it had been a whole new storyline, a whole new mythological creature that held some, even if it was like some magical knife, like I would have been like, ooh, that's different. I haven't seen that before. This is crazy, but I haven't seen it before. And I think that was the thing with this film. The other ones, like the originals, you can kind of watch it. You can watch it with your whole family. And as a kid, I loved it, but my parents loved it too. And watching this one, I'm like, oh, that's a nice kids film. I don't think a film like this is aiming to try and be a kids film, but the storyline became kind of so cheesy and so easy to understand. There was no kind of complication. There was no not understanding characters and having to really listen and think in depth about what was happening. It was so obvious and so oblivious on screen that it was perfect for a younger child. I even think by kind of rejumbling the storyline, that could have added more interest. Like, if they'd have started with why Salazar wants revenge on Jack Sparrow, but then kind of kept his story quiet, it would have created so much tension because you're waiting for him to come and attack them and take his revenge. Whereas they started with the Will Turner storyline of him being under a curse, and like I said, I just kind of felt like it was a bit irrelevant by the end of the film because there's so many aspects that start coming into it, so many discoveries that you forget that that's even what Henry Turner's planning to do. What is nice to see though is the relationship between Jack Sparrow and his crew. Kind of a really interesting part of it. Like every film, that's what made you laugh. I'm glad they kept some of it. It didn't particularly stand out, but it is there, it is apparent. But this film is full of so many one-liners. And when I say one-liners, I mean like every other line is a one-liner, because the amount of jokes that they threw in there. And this film is meant to be funny. We are meant to find Jack Sparrow's character very humorous, and you know, he's a bit of a goofball, he's drunk and he stumbles around. But here he's just throwing these one-liners that more often than not actually can't be heard well enough to actually make note of what is funny in that sentence. So it means that half of them are really funny and then half of them just fall flat, and it kind of like dulls it down every time there's another flat joke. You're like, oh, okay, right, hopefully there'll be a good one in a minute, like, or in a second. I will admit though, there was one scene that I particularly laughed out loud at. I won't ruin it, but if you're watching it, it's the guillotine scene. It's funny and it reminds you of what was so funny in Curse of the Black Pearl. Especially the opening scene, it's so iconic where he is coming in on the boat, and as the boat sinks, he just stands up on top and then he just takes one step onto the dock and doesn't even give a crap about the boat that has just sunk underneath his feet. I want to say more good things. It's just, the thing is that it's disappointing because I was definitely a fan of these films, and it's been so long since the last one I was actually craving it. I didn't mind the last one, you know, people were like, oh, it was horrendous, but I kind of liked the mermaid storyline. I thought that was quite interesting. I think the Javier Bardem storyline was quite excellent. I liked the idea of the Bermuda Triangle. I liked as soon as they stepped into it what the kind of world was like, how ruthless it became, especially the way that a young Jack Sparrow outwitted the captain of this entire boat, and it's just perfect. It's exactly what you want, it's what you expect from his character. Then you've got the young couple, you know, Henry Turner and Karina Smythe, and their romantic storyline, and it's just like a downgraded version of Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann. Oh, and Elizabeth and Will have been like split up for like 15 years and they've just not seen each other. And Jack Sparrow's like nowhere to be seen, he just doesn't care. The best part of their relationship was that although they were all like a bit naggy with each other, that actually Jack Sparrow cared so much about them and they cared a lot about him, and that was the way that he kind of integrated himself into normality out of this pirate life. I'd have been a lot more sold and I'd have felt a lot more nostalgic if he'd have actually looked longingly at their relationship and kind of how he missed them. But he doesn't, so they took that in a different route. I feel like in a way, I am actually quite excited for the next film. There's a little clip at the end of the credits and you see Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann in it again. So that's quite exciting. I like the idea of bringing them back because I feel like there's a lot more storyline there to get hold of, especially since we haven't seen them all together in a while, in a couple of films now. I think that would be really interesting. I would genuinely recommend going back and watching the first few and then just pretending that the rest of them kind of didn't happen. Just kind of want something that's relaxed, that's not very hard watching. It is actually quite good. There's a lot of storylines discovered of certain characters that we've seen before that you might actually quite like to uncover. It's quite nice to kind of understand more about those characters. But other than that, it doesn't particularly add anything. If you just kind of ignored it, moved on, there's like one or two things that you'd be like, oh, that's notable, that change, but just another element of the saga. It's just another storyline to go in with all the rest of them. So if you liked my review, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already, check out my other review about King Arthur from last week. I'm hoping to do a Wonder Woman review this week. So give this video a like, comment below your thoughts on the film, subscribe to my channel because I've got much more coming. And if you've got any suggestions for film reviews or film topics to discuss, then I'm more than happy to have a look at it. Comment that below, subscribe. Thanks, bye.